you say go, I will start.
Yes, sir. Start.
Okay. Good evening, dear delegates from India and across the globe on the live webinar sponsored by Panacea Biotech Oncology Division. We have recently launched the generic dasatinib in the management of blood cancer (CML). As we know that Panacea Biotech contribution in oncology is enormous. In 2011, we have launched the first global generic nab-paclitaxel, which has made the quality medicine very affordable in the management of metastatic breast cancer. This has been appreciated across the country and the neighboring country from Asia and Africa for providing the one of the first nab-paclitaxel at the affordable cost. With this, we have also in the mission of providing the quality medications for the oncology with the affordable cost, and this change the complete management with the many more patients are capable to get the latest treatment. As the newer and newer generics are coming, therefore the which type of generic to use is determined by the companies which are into R&D and having the long-term association with the specialty. Our association with the oncology is for more than 2 decades, and with this we are consistently and continuously supporting academic activity and scientific forum in the field of oncology. Today we have with us Dr. Subha Prakash Sanyal, who is a DM in clinical hematology from Mumbai. Dr. Subha Prakash Sanyal is one of the best hemoglobinopathy like thalassemia and sickle cell anemia, including their prenatal diagnosis and genetic counseling, and diagnosis and management of bone marrow failure syndrome. Well versed with diagnosis and management of all acquired and congenital bleeding and thrombotic disorders. In his clinical work experience, he has performed more than 4,000 bone marrow aspirations and biopsies. Very large number, and he has documented, and clinical data is available with him. 500 lumbar punctures, inserted around 100 central venous catheters, and on expertise both in insertion of jugular and PICC. Amongst the organ transplant unit, he is actively involved in the management of liver and kidney transplants at Fortis Hospital for coagulation issue. I invite Dr. Sanyal for the today's topic, management of blood cancers during COVID-19. Over to Dr. Subha Prakash Sanyal.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Good evening, my friends. So what I will do today, during the COVID era, I will talk about little bit about how the blood cancer should be tackled. But most importantly, I will be talking about the disease, which is a very common disease in our country, and not only the hematologist, oncologist will see. Most of the cases actually first filter out to the physician, general practitioners, and then from there we get the referrals. So I will aware them how the diagnosis to be suspected of this case of the CML, chronic myeloid leukemia, and how the treatment has changed over a decade, and how the treatment become very easy. So enthusiastic physicians also can manage this disease from their own part. So most important thing in the COVID era, the mantra of treating the disease is curable or disease is non-curable. When disease is curable, please treat the disease so that patient get completely cured from the cancer. Just think about COVID, take all the precautions, take all the protocols and guidelines, but don't deviate from the main goal of curing the cancer in the COVID era. Second question, more oral therapy. So treat the patient more with the oral treatment, You know, last 2-3 years, there are a lot of oral treatment is available in the blood cancer arena. So more oral and less hospital visits. These are the mool mantra you should be followed during the COVID time. And every hematologist, hemato-oncologist are trying to evolve their own protocol during the COVID era so that they can handle. So what I'll be doing, I'll be talking very briefly about the disease called chronic myeloid leukemia. And this is the body which is called European Leukemia Net. They have a very clear-cut guideline and understanding about the disease, which is published just few months back, 2020 only. So I'll be describing what was the history and how the things are evolving. So I'm just coming to the slides first. So simple, the chronic myeloid leukemia in 2020 is not leukemia at all. Chronic myeloid leukemia, though we call it leukemia, it comes under the group of disease what is called myeloproliferative neoplasm. What does it mean? Myelo means bone marrow, proliferative means more production in the marrow, and the neoplasm means malignancy. So myeloproliferative neoplasm is basically consists of 4 diseases. Number 1, polycythemia rubra vera, which is a disease of the hemoglobin and RBC. So you can technically call it as a malignancy or cancer of the RBC or hemoglobin. Next comes chronic myeloid leukemia. Next comes primary myelofibrosis, and next comes essential thrombocythemia. Remember why I'm stressing these things, and I'm just discussing this disease entity, because most of these diseases are actually picked up by the general physicians and the general practitioners. Many times you can find patient don't have any symptoms at all. Patient came to you for routine follow-up for diabetes. You are doing CBC for every 3 months, and you are finding the WBC count is 25,000, 30,000 like that. There is no evidence of any infection. There is no evidence of any other reasons to believe why the WBC count is high. So remember, asymptomatic patient, when the counts are persistently high, these are the problem area. So simple basic approach. So when we talk about patients, or when the patient comes to follow up due to any reason, you guys do the complete blood count. So when you do the complete blood count, at least you should give justice to seeing the report properly, and at least you see the 3 parameters properly. One is the hemoglobin, one is the WBC, one is the platelet. Normal hemoglobin is 13 to 16.5 for male and 13 to 16 for female. 12 to 16 for female, sorry. So any hemoglobin more than 16.5 for male is high. Any hemoglobin more than 16 for female is high. Any hemoglobin less than 13 is anemia for male. Any hemoglobin less than 12 for female is anemia for the female. That is the WHO definition. There is no India definition. Any WBC count more than 11,000 is high WBC count. Any WBC count less than 4,000 is a low WBC count. Platelet count is normally 1.5 lakh to 4 lakh, but any time platelet count is more than 4,50,000 and it is persistently high, it is believed to be high platelet count or thrombocytosis. So whenever you see any patient with a high WBC count, and this WBC count is persistent, and the differential count of the WBC you see mostly the myeloid precursors like myelocyte, metamyelocyte, band cells, and one more feature, when the basophil count is also high, normal basophil is 0 to 2%. When you see the high basophilia, you always suspect clinically that this patient probably having chronic myeloid leukemia, though the patient may be absolutely asymptomatic. Clinically, patient may have hepatosplenomegaly. You can palpate the spleen, you can palpate the liver, and they are palpable. They are palpable by hand. Don't believe the sonologist report of mild splenomegaly, mild hepatomegaly. You palpate your hand on the abdomen and you have to measure 3 centimeter, 4 centimeter, 6 centimeter. What is the margin of the splenomegaly? Or what is the diagnose? What is the diameter of the splenomegaly? So these are the important things here. So remember, when you are getting a patient who had a splenomegaly, who had a hepatomegaly, absolutely asymptomatic maybe, WBC count is high, differential count shows left side shaped, high platelet count, high basophilia, no clinical evidence of infection. I see many times in the practice, gynecologists, physicians, they are very fond of, oh, high WBC count, give antibiotics, high WBC count, give antibiotics. Believe me, if there is a clinical symptoms of infection is not there, don't treat unnecessarily with the antibiotic and make your bug resistant, which makes our life miserable down the line. So these are the clinical features of the chronic myeloid leukemia. So whenever the patients having chronic myeloid leukemia happens, diagnosis is very straightforward. We do a test, what is called FISH test, FISH, fluorescent in situ hybridization. It is not the fish what you like to have, like a pomfret, surmai or Bombay duck. It is not like that. It is a technology which detects the fusion of the chromosomal protein. So you know, in our body there are chromosome number from 1 to 22. So when there is a marriage between the chromosome 9 and chromosome 22, the son born from this marriage is called BCR-ABL protein, which is actually the balanced translocation between chromosome 9 and chromosome 22. And whenever this is documented by the FISH method or quantitative RT-PCR method, BCR-ABL detection, that means you have a chronic myeloid leukemia. So definition of chronic myeloid leukemia is a very simple and straightforward. You have to document BCR-ABL protein either in the blood or bone marrow by FISH or by RQ-PCR or polymerase chain reaction technique. Now, everyone, we are learning about the COVID testing, swab testing. But you remember, you have to know the swab testing by which method? By PCR method. So PCR basically amplify the DNA and RNA and then detect the abnormal protein. That is the way we do the PCR. So you have to learn a little bit about the PCR technology, the how PCR technology helps to identify these proteins. So remember one thing, whenever you have a documentation of BCR-ABL protein in your blood or a marrow by FISH or RQ-PCR, diagnosis of CML, chronic myeloid leukemia. If it is not there, it is not any more chronic myeloid leukemia in 2020. Correct? So very simple to diagnose once you got a clue to that. Basic biochemistry always should be done, and sometimes we do bone marrow, but believe me, sometimes nowadays we don't do bone marrow. We escape the bone marrow also, where we can manage from the blood test only to diagnose chronic myeloid leukemia. So whenever we diagnose chronic myeloid leukemia, whether this chronic myeloid leukemia is a low risk disease, intermediate disease, or bad risk disease, we can by score by few computerized calculations like age, spleen size, blast in the peripheral blood and platelet, which is very simple to do. All are the apps are available. You have to just put the values and you can get the result. So don't look at this slide. Remember 2-3 points about the chronic myeloid leukemia, which is extremely important. Chronic myeloid leukemia is the only so-called leukemia. Why I'm using the so-called leukemia? Because I told it is anyway not leukemia in 2020. It is a myeloproliferative neoplasm. So chronic myeloid leukemia is not a immunosuppressed condition. In COVID era, everyone is talking about immunosuppression, immunosuppression, immunosuppression. So you get a patient of the CML, chronic myeloid leukemia with a COVID positivity, don't bother, just treat the COVID part, because chronic myeloid leukemia is not an immune suppressed condition, number one. Number two, drugs what we use to treat chronic myeloid leukemia, there are also all the drugs are not immunosuppressed drug. So it has no relation with lowering of the immunity either by the disease or by the drug. So when we talk about the chronic myeloid leukemia, our treatment protocol is very straightforward, and it is one of the magic bullet we call. We use the tyrosine kinase inhibitor. Now we have 4 drugs available in the country, including the generic and the original product. Imatinib, which is the oldest one, first generation TKI, available in the country, both in the generic form and in the original innovator. Dasatinib, second generation TKI, now available by Panacea Biotech, is a generic, and also available by the original innovator one. Nilotinib, the another second generation, which is available only as a innovator level, and bosutinib also launched recently in the country. So we have 4 drugs together. I am telling a very personal story of mine. When I was intern in 1999, and that point of time I used to stay in Calcutta, one of our neighbor who stays next to our flat, that lady developed chronic myeloid leukemia in 1999. And I still remember the lady used to be very sad, used to sit in the balcony, and she knew that I was a budding doctor at that point of time doing internship. She used to call me, I used to call her auntie, she used to call me to her place to discuss the disease, and every time she used to tell me that one drug is coming from the US, the name of the drug is imatinib, that is in a shipment and it will be reaching very soon. But believe me, just 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, one fine morning I heard that lady died due to the disease, and that their family told me they couldn't arrange the drug due to the cost constraint, because the cost was prolific. It was around 1,50,000 per month and to continue for lifelong. That was the story in 1999. So another important story, when I appear my MBBS exam in the, say 1998, my final MBBS exam, when I appeared my MD entrance examination, and you know we have to do the multiple choice question, and when I appeared my DM entrance examination, every time the drug of choice changes. So starting from the era of the hydroxyurea, which just controls the disease, and the patient lifespan is 3 to 4 months, and unless or until you do bone marrow transplantation, patient will transform from chronic myeloid leukemia to accelerated phase or blastic phase. Blastic phase you can call it an acute myeloid leukemia, and patient dies. That was the story of the late 90s, which is a horrific story in our country or everywhere. So transplant only curative, you can't transplant hydroxyurea 3-4 years and you will die. Then comes the imatinib, which is like a cure to the disease. And then Indian generics has come, lot of generic comes, cost has drastically come down from 1,50,000 is a prolific number to just 2,000 to 3,000 rupees per month. And now almost every patient can afford that drug. So I always salute my Indian farmer. I'm really a proud Indian to call my Indian farmers, really, because they bring the generic and make our life easy, make our patients' life is easy. One of the greatest hematologists, Jeffrey, told once in a meeting that I am extremely grateful to the US and India that all the drugs are available. But what is the advantage in India? The drugs are available in the generic form, but in US our patient has to buy most of the time the innovator. So cost is important, And believe me, though we are cranky about the health cost is going on and all this stuff, in India this costs are abnormally low. And you can't imagine, you can compare the cost in the Western Europe or the United States of America. So imatinib comes, and the first half of the 2000, imatinib, then comes dasatinib, and then comes nilotinib, and then comes bosutinib. So now we have 4 drugs. All 4 drugs are approved for first-line treatment of the chronic myeloid leukemia (CP). So I will be telling few things which is very important 2020. So whenever you talk about the treatment, patient asks, sir, how long to continue? And most important, our answer was lifelong. You have to continue the treatment lifelong. You can't stop the treatment now. Though you got a control of the disease, though you got a very good hold on the disease, your disease is almost undetectable, but still you have to continue. So that was the mantra I used to tell the patient. So few changes which is very important. You have to understand few very basic things. Don't upset with the slide. First one, CCYR means complete cytogenetic remission. Means what? I told you what is the meaning of the disease. Detection of the BCR-ABL protein, which is called Philadelphia chromosome, by the FISH technique. If your FISH result is 0, non-detectable, you have complete cytogenetic remission. Then comes MMR or AMR, what is called major molecular response. And AMR means molecular response. So there are 3 levels of molecular response. You can see in the right hand side of the chart, MR4, MR4.5 and MR5. So remember this MR3, 4 and 4.5, this area we call you are in the deep molecular response or DMR, so deep molecular response. So they are simple blood test, no bone marrow test is required. So suppose your blood test shows your BCR-ABL detection limit is less than 1%. So that means you have a 2 log reduction, which is a complete cytogenetic response. If it is a 0.1% means 3 log reduction, 0.01% less than means 4 log reduction, and 0.0032% is a 4.5 log reduction. So nowadays the target is you have to be in the range of 4 to 4.5 log reduction. So simple thing, when you start your treatment, CBC, every 2 weeks till you got a complete hematological response. So complete hematological response means simple CBC, normal hemoglobin, normal WBC, normal platelet count, and normal differential count. This quantitative PCR test done from the simple blood test every 3 months, starting baseline and then every 6 months. And once you achieve MMR or major molecular response or deep molecular response, I don't do every 3 months, every 6 months is also okay. I told you the importance of cytogenetics and the FISH test to start with. So this is a little clumsy site for you. So baseline 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. So when you start your treatment, you started your treatment 3 months, your qPCR should be less than 10%, 6 months is less than 1%, 12 months less than 0.1%. If it is the result, you are absolutely fine. You are doing excellent job. If it is more than 10%, or it is 1 to 10%, you are a little bit delayed. It's a warning sign. Wait carefully, don't change. But if you are in the right side of the curve, so that means you are not following the milestone. So you have to change the treatment. And not at all a problem because we have so many drugs now, 4 drugs in the basket. So you can choose any one of them from the basket. So I told you so many drugs, imatinib, dasatinib, nilotinib, bosutinib, all are US FDA approved, all are European Medical Agency EMA approved. So there is no confusion at all. You can take any one of the drugs. Now few things I think as a practitioner you should be very careful and you should know that. So as long as a generic drug meets the national standard of the country involved in terms of the quality of production, bioavailability and efficacy, then it is acceptable alternative to brand product. Remember, our Indian companies are famous from exporting the drug in the different part of the world. We are the world leader. So our viability, our quality of production, our efficacy, all are measured by the European EMA guideline or FDA. So our most of the plants are FDA approved plants. So believe me, our genetics are really appreciable drug. If a patient change from a brand to generic brand and then enhance vigilance for the first 6 months in terms of sustaining response and observing for few newer adverse events is advisable. So you have to so you can always change from your original brand to generic brand, but you have to be little careful. And these are the guidelines given not by me. These are the guidelines prescribed by the ELN CML 2020 guideline. It is recommended the patient continues to use the same generic brand if at possible in order to avoid potential side effects due to changes in the drug structure, bioavailability and excipient. So basics. So if you are taking a generic drug, you should know the company goodwill and the brand of the company, which is extremely important. If you are using generic, little vigilant, and if you want to switch from the original to generic, you can always do that. So remember few things which is extremely important. Whenever there is a failure, whenever there is a resistance, where there is intolerance due to side effect of the drug, you can always switch your drug from one of the other. So imatinib to dasatinib, dasatinib to nilotinib, nilotinib to dasatinib, you can do it on your own way. But nowadays, there is a little more push up to use second generation drug as the first line of drug. So second generation drug means dasatinib and nilotinib. So I'm giving a simple example. You want to travel from Thana to Viti. You have a fast train, you have a slow train, which you prefer? You always prefer fast train, right? So second generation TKI, dasatinib, gives more quicker response, more deeper response, which translates to better quality of life, better control of the disease, and the most important thing, which I will discuss with you now, is a point called treatment-free remission. So I told you, whenever patient asks you how long I am supposed to take the treatment, your answer was lifelong. But 2020, most important thing, you have to talk to the patient. No more lifelong. So there is a criteria. You have to follow the criteria. If you comes on that criteria, you can be switched off the drug. So any cancer patient, any leukemia patient, when you are telling you are cured and you are off treatment, so you are done. So what can be the good news for the patient? The young females who wants to get pregnant, young guys just wants to start family, for them it's excellent news to off medication. So I'll be talking a little bit about the treatment-free remission. What does it mean? Remember one point. What I was talking all at the CML chronic phase, but there are two other phases, what is called accelerated phase and what's called blastic phase. The blastic phase means when chronic myeloid leukemia transforms to acute myeloid leukemia, that is called blastic phase. That is a bad disease. So treatment-free remission means whenever any patient you treat CML, chronic myeloid leukemia, what are the goals? Your goals to cure, long-term survival, most important, long-term survival with a TFR, which is treatment-free remission. And recent data suggest that TFR, the treatment-free remission, that means off drug, possible with a stable MMR, so major molecular response. More than, so when you stop the drug, so you decided this patient needs TFR, more than 80% of the patient will get back their disease or relapse happens after first to 6 months. But if you manage the first to 6 months, and if there is disease is coming back, you start the treatment again, and most of the patient do very well. But remember, after stopping nilotinib or dasatinib, either first or second line treatment, the probability of maintaining TFR, so that means no relapse, is 50%. So you stop the drug for 2 people, then out of 2, 1 will be lifelong free and one patient will be getting relapse. I personally feel country like India, where cost is very important, follow-up schedule become important. People always should be given to discuss properly, and it is their right to get a TFR when they are qualify the criteria of the TFR. And duration of deep molecular response seem to be the most important factor of TFR. But how will you reach DMR? So you will be get deep molecular response with by the fast train. And what are the fast train? Fast train is a dasatinib, fast train is a nilotinib. Cost wise, dasatinib now is even more cheaper than imatinib in our country. The generics comes, so it will be much cheaper option. I think whole world will be seeing. Now the Indian generics of the dasatinib is already in the market. When the lockdown will be elevated, whole world will be watching probably the dasatinib success of the India in coming 1 or 2 years. I think we can be the world leader here. Remember few things just for your information. You should try with the TFR when your disease in the first stage, CP only. Patient should be very educated, motivated, and structured communications will be there. Duration of TKI therapy should be more than 5 years. Duration of the DMR should be more than 2 years, or simple duration of TKI more than 5 years, duration of DMR more than 3 years if MR 4, and duration of DMR more than 2 years is if MR 4.5. So these I told you what is MR4 means, what MR 4.5 means. So that means if you are in a very good response, very good deep molecular response, then you can always try this. And it has a real implications on the people who want to get pregnant. So main planting phalarud do not need to discontinue treatment. All TKI are teratogenic, so are contraindicated during pregnancy. So you can make a drug-free time during pregnancy. It will be excellent. Low level secretion of TKI in the breast milk contraindicates their use during breastfeeding. So women eligible for a trial of TFR can also be safely discontinue their TKI in order to conceive. Women who lost MMR and are pregnant are likely to reach to term without a clinical need for restarting of the treatment. So I told you 2G TKI for TMR. This is the future in CML. No more lifelong treatment. I think after 5, 6 years, 8 years max, if you get a good DMR, you get a good response, you can make the patient drug free. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanyal. It is indeed a very nice elaboration on the guidelines and using of the TKIs, imatinib, dasatinib, and what are the changes and importantly the treatment-free remission. Sir, there are a few questions are coming from the audience. I will take one by one.
Sure.
Dr. Rakesh is not mentioned from which city, I cannot make out from here, asking that what is the percentage of patients having imatinib resistance in your clinical practice or per se in India?
It's a good question. So the imatinib is very popular medication in our country. Just 4 days back, I was conducting one panel discussion with a very bright, young, motivated oncologist and hematologist from Central India. So when I take a vote from them, 90 to 95% they told their patients are on imatinib, and only 5% patients will be on the dasatinib or nilotinib, whatever. But my practice is very different. In my practice, I have now even 120 plus CML patients in my OPD. So my 60% patient is on nilotinib, my 40% patient is on imatinib, and my 1 or 2% patient is on dasatinib. I am telling you the why, and I am coming to your question because you need this background before to discuss your question of imatinib resistance. I somehow believe from the previous year's ELN guideline, they were not very clear what they mentioned in 2020. The TFR will be the future. So you have to get a remission quick and you have to reach the bottom of the disease also very quick, and which only the 2G TKI can do. And in our country, 2G TKI till 2 months back, nilotinib and dasatinib, both the original ones were available. Somehow nilotinib accessibility is much better than dasatinib. So I always switch to nilotinib. So I start with the first line treatment with the nilotinib. Imatinib, there are a lot of side effects. Side effects like you have a body pain, you have a cough pain, GI upset, nausea, vomiting. You are getting fairer skin that many young females don't like at all. So these complications are there, and you know the data from the IRIS trial, that 30 to 40% people are off imatinib. So if you claim that imatinib is a very good drug, down the line means after years, 40% patients are off imatinib either due to intolerance, side effects of the drug, or their failure, they are losing their response. These are the story when imatinib, you don't have the other weapons. So where you have a better weapons in the terms which can reach you more quicker response and deeper response with a less side effects, why not you use the second line one as upfront? I am very excited about dasatinib due to two reasons. You know, nilotinib needs food modification in the sense 2 hours before and 2 hours after you can't take any food, it's an empty stomach. And nilotinib patients, it's for very difficult to adjust the food monitoring because you have to take 2 times a day. Dasatinib does not require any food modification. You can take with drug, with food, off food, any point of time and once a day. So I took just a survey of my 10 patients of nilotinib. I asked them, suppose I never told them that dasatinib is a drug. I told them, suppose a new drug has come and these drugs say no food modification required. Response rate almost same and side effects are very minimal except the pleural effusion part, and which is manageable, I believe. And you don't have any food modification, you have to take only once a day. You choose the new drug. Out of 10 patients who are doing excellently on the nilotinib, 8 people told, yes, I want to switch. 2 people, no, we are happy with our own drug. So my suggestions will be, when the ELN guideline is very clear about TFR is the goal, and to achieve TFR, second generation TKR, which is like a first local in the Mumbai. So you should always try with the second generation one. So choice between dasatinib and nilotinib is in your hand. And bosutinib is also marketed recently. I think tomorrow I have a panel discussion on the bosutinib. I am very interested about that. So you have a lot of options now. Lot of new dresses available in the market. Lot of new fashions that are available in the market. So you can choose any one of them according to your comfort. Thanks. Bye. Next question.
Yeah. Sir, very well. You have taken care of the next question's answer as well into this. Sir, what is important that who is the decision maker? As you said that the choice is up to the patients or it's a doctor. If it is a side effects profile, intolerance, definitely patient will come to the physician, and for the clinical efficacy, you are the best judge. So he's the final decision maker to switch amongst the second generation TKIs.
I have just one comment here. So when you talk with your patient, you sit with the patient, draw a diagram, imatinib pros cons, dasatinib pros cons, nilotinib pros cons. You should not decide. Let the patient decide what he wants to have. That is the way I do.
Oh, very well said, sir. Sir, you already answered that, but looking at as the affordability and availability of dasatinib, would you
I'll come
use
to
the
this point.
dasatinib as
So
a
I
first-line
did the
therapy?
costing very carefully. If you do, because see, you have to continue at least 6-7 years, right? So if you do a costing in a long-term pattern, generic dasatinib will be exciting drug. I'm telling you, because nilotinib comes at a price of around 7,500 around. Imatinib is also 3,500, 3,000 range. Dasatinib, I think the companies are extremely careful and sensitive. They are also making the price around 3,000 to 4,000. So there is no actual cost difference. There is a trial. I am not propagating the trial, but you should know the trial where the people used in the trial 50 mg dasatinib. So suppose this is a single center trial. So if there is a multi-center trial, randomized control trial, and if somehow, see, if you remember, once upon a time, dose of dasatinib was 140 mg. Now revolution happened, and now the dose of the dasatinib is 100 mg. So if down the line, say 2022 or 2024, dasatinib dose become 50 mg, then it becomes just cakewalk for the dasatinib. So for the cost concern among the other group of the drug. But it is a trial. Don't start clinical practice at this stage. So dose of dasatinib still today is 100 mg once a day. Next.
Right. So this is about the TK resistance test, KD mutation, whether it is a mandatory before the start of the TK therapy.
Before the mandatory before?
Yeah, before the therapy, before the tyrosine kinase inhibitor therapy.
Oh, yeah. So whenever you start TKI upfront, you don't require or you should not do mutation study. No, not at all. When you started a drug, I show you the calendar of the response and you are not getting the desired response and you are thinking you may have to switch the drug. So another one. So that point of time, you definitely should do the mutation study because you know there are some of the mutation, some of the drug don't do well. So you definitely you should do before changing to second line of drug. Absolutely you should do, but upfront, not necessary at all.
Now the next question is what you have very well described about that, about the treatment-free interval or the new ways of that. The patients will be away from the drug and require a lot of counseling and a lot of guidelines are there. So which key guidelines you recommend to the doctors for the treatment-free interval?
Yeah, so ELN guideline is very straightforward, very lucid. I told you, no, more than 5 years of TKI, 3 years of deep molecular response around 4.5. These are very standard criteria. So follow the ELN guideline. It is very straightforward. But yes, talk with the patient, talk with the patient, talk with the patient. If the patient is not willing to be TFR, just continue. Few patients told me, doctor, I'm not comfortable to getting a TFR. I want to continue my drug. So far I have around 3 to 4 patients who are willing for TFR. Few patients, and one patient told me, doctor, it is more costly to do be TFR because we have to do test more every month that I can't afford. So drug is more cheaper than the test. So I want to continue the test. So you have to tell everything, all the data you have to tell them. And again, patient has to take a decision.
So what is your experience of how long duration you have kept a patient TFR and what is the period interval to take the molecular testing to see the progression of the patient?
Every month you should do. BCR-AVL every month you should do. When you are TFR every month you should do. Yeah. With the blood counts and TFR, you have to be very careful. Yes. Because 50% patient, you will get relapse within the first 6 to 8 months time. The first year is extremely important.
Sir, almost the questions are over. I want that you to give the concluding message to our audience on the usage of dasatinib in CML.
So dasatinib is extremely easy to handle drug. Once a day, 100 mg is the dose. No food modification required. Side effect, pleural effusion known, which is again dose dependent. So if you stop the drug for a little bit, you have to modify the dose, it will go away. Manageable side effect. Not much other problem. No much drug interaction. Cost-wise, Indian generics are extremely good. So I'm very happy with the way the Indian generics has come, and I'm sure this will be the world leader in a few years.
Yes. Sir, now the questions, no more new questions are coming in. So I thank you very much for the updating us on the guidelines and TFR regime to be implemented, and the Indian generic is well available, quality medicines, and doctors are accepting it. And so more and more patients would be fully on the affordable drug. With this, Panacea Biotech has launched the dasatinib, and we see that the more and more number of the patients would be there. Those are the imatinib resistance, intolerant to the imatinib, and nilotinib anyway having the more side effects profile compared with the dasatinib. So we look forward, and many more academic interactions would be there on this platform, and we are looking from you to get the more insights and the clinical data which Indian doctors are going to have for the further discussion on dasatinib. With this, I conclude this session and thank you very much for being here on the platform provided by the Panacea Biotech Oncology Division. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Panacea, for beautiful platform.